and welcome to Chisme del Cielo, where we talk about the only gossip worth sharing, the good news. I'm your host, Yahaira Valenzuela. Alright, you guys, we finally made it to episode 1. I'm excited. I am nervous. I thought a lot about what I wanted this episode to be because a part of me didn't really want to talk about myself, but at the same time, I know that sharing your story is so important because you never know who it might be resonating with. And so I had a lot of back and forth moments going on with myself because I was debating whether or not to talk about myself. And I figured, it's the first episode. I should probably lay it all out there and give myself some credibility as your narrator right now. No, as your podcast host. And just kind of let you guys actually truly get to know me and my journey. So this first episode is special to me. I mean, every episode is going to be special to me, but this episode is particularly a very vulnerable one because this is the first time that I share my full story with people. Actually, fun fact, it's actually not fun. It's not fun at all, but it is a fact. A part of the reason why I was waiting so long to start this podcast is because I wanted to talk to my parents and my family about something that was a very big part of my testimony, my spiritual testimony. And I just couldn't find the right time to do it. I finally did. Thank God. After years and years of praying over it, I was finally able to talk to them. And so now I kind of feel ready to put this out there because you don't know, you never know who is going to resonate with your story or what's going to impact someone, hopefully in a positive way. And so, I'm putting it out there. I did want to give a disclaimer and a quick trigger warning. My testimony does unfortunately involve some SA. So I will have some resources at the end of the episode. Also, I'm going to try to avoid trigger words and things, obviously, because I also don't want to talk about it. But also because I'm not sure what is and isn't allowed on the platforms that I'm posting this episode on. So I just want to make sure I'm following all the guidelines and not doing too much. But if this is something that you're not really comfortable listening to, that's totally okay. Feel free to skip to the second part of the video where I'll be talking about things that I do to live a holy life now and things that I'm doing to glorify God on my walk to sainthood. So if you want to skip over to that in a second, I will, well, not in a second, but when I'm done recording the episode, I'll come back and insert a clip telling you where you can skip ahead to. I just ask that you guys listen to this episode if you are going to hear the whole thing. Listen to it with an open heart, open mind. I know that probably everybody listening right now knows me personally. And again, this isn't something that I've shared publicly before. So just bear with me, hear me out. This is something too that I have been working on healing from for a very long time now, obviously since it happened. And I've been praying a lot about it, so I do feel comfortable sharing it, but I also don't want it to be anything more than it has to be, right? It was a long time ago, and I'm trying to heal, so please don't say anything insensitive about it. I would appreciate that. But I hope that you guys enjoy the episode, and skip to around minute 27 of this episode to skip my testimony and go straight to tips for living a holy life. Shocker to no one, I am a cradle Catholic. I was born into a very traditional Mexican Catholic household, and I'm very grateful that I was, because I grew up in the faith because of it, and that's something that I will never take for granted. I think it's a very beautiful thing. So I was blessed with parents who were pretty involved in their ministry. So growing up, I got to visit a lot of beautiful parishes. I got to make Catholic friends and meet Catholic people through their ministry. And so that was a really incredible thing that I know that not everybody gets to experience. I also got to give talks at such a young age at the church with my parents at family retreats and conventions and things. So I kind of grew up yapping, surprise to no one. And I'm grateful that I got to do it in the church at such a young age, and, that I got to start early. I also grew up going singing in the youth choir at church, so that was also incredible. And I always looked forward to going to these things. I loved being Catholic, and I loved that I had Catholic culture to look at, right? So I had a good childhood in terms of my beliefs and my religion and my faith. So that was great. In middle school, my parents, well, when I became a teenager or whatever, my parents gave me the talk, the one, and they gave me a purity ring. And I remember when we talked about it, I was just like, yeah, that's gross. I have no desire on doing these things anyway. But I guess you could say that that's when I first or officially took my vow of chastity, right? And that's when I decided, no, what y'all are saying makes sense. And it was never just, to me, it was never just a matter of respecting the church and what the church teaches and doing what God says is right, in air quotes, right? But it was also, I'm going to respect myself because I think that I'm worth a lot. I think that I deserve a good love and, love over lust, right? That whole thing. And I believed in that at a young age. I believed in that. I truly did believe in that. I was okay with it. And yeah, that I was set. I was like, yeah, I'm waiting till marriage because I want to do that for myself, not just because, like I said, it's the right thing to do, but because I wanted to do that for myself. So this is important, I think, in my spiritual journey, but we'll get back to that. So yeah, then I went to high school, had my first, I guess, as serious as a high school relationship can be, my first serious boyfriend. And nothing happened because, like I said, I was very firm on my beliefs, and I was very firm on, I was standing on business, y'all. I was like, nah, I'm waiting. Anytime he tried to make a move on me, I'd be like, absolutely not. I was quick to cut it off, right? So again, I'm grateful that I was strong in that, basically all throughout my childhood and growing up. And yeah, high school was good. I was good in school. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It was a good time. Again, still spiritually good. I was very involved at my church still, and this time, it was for sure because I was dragging myself there, not because my parents were dragging me there. I did my confirmation, received the sacrament of confirmation. Beautiful, all the things. I did all the things. I was good. I loved it. Went to so many retreats. Loved it. When I first went to college, also, my freshman year, I loved the Catholic campus ministry at my university. It was so amazing, so incredible. And I guess that's where I truly started to find community in the church, and that was such a beautiful thing to me, and I loved it. I immediately fell in love with the ministry. And so yeah, I was pretty involved, and then COVID happened at the spring of my freshman year. So we got sent home, and I'm not going to dive into the COVID details because I think COVID was just an interesting time for all Catholics. We couldn't receive the sacrament of the Eucharist in person. We couldn't go to Mass in person. It was just a weird time, so I'm not going to dive into it. But I did the things, right? Watched Mass online, all of this stuff. And it wasn't until a little bit later during my college years when I started dating this guy, of course, because it's always the guys. No, I'm playing. But yeah, I started dating this guy. And we were long distance, which to me was perfect. I had no problem with it. And it's actually funny in hindsight because I would get everyone in my family was like, you're so dumb. You don't think he's cheating on you. You think that long distance is going to work, right? All these negative things, and me being naive, innocent little me, I was like, no, we'll be fine. And for me, I was at the time locked in on school. So yes, I like this guy, but at the same time, I was priorities, I gotta get my degree, I gotta do what I gotta do, and that's that, right? We were long distance anyway, so I was whatever he's doing doesn't really affect me too much, And so even with all these rumors circulating around and coming back to me, I was just no, I'm chilling because I got school and he wouldn't do that to me, blah blah, naive innocence, it's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But It wasn't until I was one day visiting him. Well, I wasn't visiting him. I was visiting, and he was there. But I went, and we went out with his friends that night, and it's really interesting because I guess, like, you could say that two things happened that day, that night. The first one being that we were out with his friends drinking, and you guys, I'm not even a heavy drinker, so when I tell you, like, I maybe took 3 sips that night, and somehow don't remember what happened the rest of the time. So you can kind of put your puzzle pieces together and figure out what might have happened there. Because like I said, I took maybe 3 sips and somehow I don't remember anything. So there's that. And I remember when I woke up the next day, I was in pain and I saw some things, some signs. And I was immediately like Googling, y'all. I was Googling because, again, naive innocence. Like I was very innocent. I had no idea. Like I was like, what is happening? Right? I saw these signs. I'm not going to obviously give details, but I saw these signs. I was like, what's happening? Why do I feel this way? Why am I seeing these things? And I started Googling and I was like, no, surely not. Surely this is not what just happened to me. Surely not when I can't even remember, right? And yeah, I just kind of pushed the thought out of my head and I guess for a couple of hours convinced myself that surely not, right? And then I saw him again later that day, the next day. And, bro was trying to make a move. And I was like, what are you doing, right? This is not me. You know this. Like, I've always said no. It's not going to change today. And he kind of just laughed and was like, that's crazy because, wouldn't be the first time. And I was like, hello? Like, I'm laughing now, but it's really not funny. And I remember when I got that confirmation that it was, in fact, like, surely, yes, it was what I thought. I think not to make a joke out of it, but I feel like I blacked out for the second time in like 24 hours because I legitimately did not know how to react. I was like in shock in the moment, in denial, maybe. I just didn't know what to say, what to do. It wasn't something that I ever thought would happen to me. And I think that was the first moment in my life when I finally understood when people question God and say, like, oh, why do bad things happen to good people? And I say that humbly, right? Like, I don't mean that I think that I didn't deserve it. I mean, no one deserves that, but I don't mean it in the sense that, like, oh, like, I'm such a good person. But I mean, in a way, I guess I kind of do. Because, like, at the time, I was saving myself. I was already in my 20s, so I had made it that far, like, I made it out of my teens. And for this to happen to someone who I would say, like, my faith was pretty strong at the time. And so for this to happen to me without consent when I was saving it for, my special someone. So for this to happen without consent, for this to happen and I couldn't even remember that it happened, right? Like, couldn't remember when or where or how. Like, that's like a double whammy. And I chuckle now because I'm trying not to cry, but also, like, I think back and I'm just like, what the heck? And I think about it, and the way that I reacted is actually insane, you guys, because I didn't, like, immediately dump him and leave and never speak to him again. That's not what I did. And that's really sad to think about, but, you can't go back in time. But I remember, like, I couldn't even look my parents in the eyes because I felt so icky and ashamed. And for some insane reason, I felt like somehow it was my fault. Looking back, I'm like, no, that was actually crazy of me to think. But obviously, I think that when that something like that happens to you, you don't, obviously you're not expecting it to happen, so you don't know how to react until you do. And the way that I reacted, in hindsight again, was not the thing to do, but I think that it was a very natural and human response. And I felt hurt and for some reason embarrassed. Like, I think that that was a value that I held very close, a virtue that I held very close to my heart. And I felt like that was something that I was like doing for, not doing for God, but doing for God. Like, it was like a gift that I was giving, right? And so for it to be taken away from me was very obviously not okay, but like double not okay, because I was so like prideful of the fact that I was waiting and that my future husband would be the first and all the things, right? And so when it happened, like I said, I couldn't look my parents in the eyes. I was like, they're gonna know, like they're gonna see me, they're gonna know. And I just thought, if I can't see my parents like this, if I can't talk to my parents because I'm scared that they're gonna react negatively or blame me, or think that now I'm dirty and ruined. I don't know. A lot of thoughts crossed my mind, and I felt like Doctor Strange in that moment. Like, I was just getting like thinking of every possible scenario, and most of them were bad. So I was like, I can't tell them. I can't. It's gonna go horribly. And I just remember thinking, like, if I can't tell my parents, if I'm too ashamed to tell my parents, how am I going to show up in front of Jesus at Mass and tell him, right? I think in a way I was like hiding from God, which was very silly because he knows everything and he's everywhere and he knows my heart. And hiding from him is just like, I don't know, I really thought I was slick, y'all, but I wasn't. But during that time when I was just kind of still somewhere in between denial and grieving my innocence, right? And blaming myself, somewhere in between there, I was like, I can't go to Mass. I can't go. Everyone's gonna know I'm dirty now. Everyone's gonna know I'm tainted. And I think about these things and I'm like, silly, goofy me. Like, I was like, why was I thinking so poorly about something that I had no, it was not my fault. It was out of my control. I obviously wouldn't have let it happen if I had known it was happening, right? So, again, looking back, I'm like, it was not my fault. I was technically not, it's like a gray area, but like it's not like I was in sin by my own doing, right? And but yeah, I was just really embarrassed. I didn't want to be at the church. I didn't want to be with my church friends because I was like, I'm dirty, like they're gonna know that I'm ruined. And I know, like, hearing this is probably really irritating because, again, like, it wasn't my fault, so I don't know why I was reacting this way. But again, unless that's you, you don't know how you'll react. And so, to sum this up, because I feel like I've talked about it long enough, longer than I needed to. It wasn't until, like, years later, like, I'm talking 3-4 years later, I want to say 3, of like kind of going to Mass on some Sundays, but not being consistent, not taking the Eucharist, not participating in the Holy Communion. Like, And mind you, I was in college, so like my parents didn't know that I wasn't going to church. They didn't know that I had stopped going to the groups and things like that. So again, like I was just hiding from God, hiding from my parents, because I didn't know how to face the reality that my innocence was taken from me without my consent. And I just felt so broken. And so again, it wasn't until a couple years later when I finally was like, no, I need to lock in. Like, I know what I need to do. I know that even if it was my fault, even if I was struggling with that sin by my own doing, that I have a God who is infinitely good and merciful and infinitely just, who was waiting for me with open arms. And that sounds so like cliche into the ears of a non-believer. I'm sure it's almost silly. But I truly believed in that moment, like in that moment of reconversion, all I could think was, he's infinitely just, and my justice will be served, right? Because what was I gonna do? I wasn't gonna hurt him back. That's not the way, right? What was I gonna do? And so I started to think about, well, he'll get what he deserves, and if he repents, then good for him. But I was like, I need to worry about myself, because at the end of the day, being ashamed and being angry and being broken, like all of the things that I was feeling were just so negative about myself. And I realized, like, I don't even know why, because it wasn't my doing again. But I realized, like, I need to stop this. Like, I need to get back in God's good graces, because what the heck, like, this isn't me. I had changed so much over the course of those years because I was away, and it just was making me ugly. And so I finally went back to confession, I went to confession for the first time in years. Praise God. And I talked to the priest about it, which is what I should have done from the beginning, or a therapist at least, something. But I talked to the priest about it, and I was like, okay, I've said it out loud. It's out there. And this was during Lent, so even more beautiful. And I was like, okay, I think I can start my healing process now. And that was that moment that I mentioned in the trailer, my big moment of reconversion. Because after that confession, praise God, I felt so clean. I felt brand new, and it felt so good to be able to say it out loud and know that, or be reminded that God sees me, and that he hears me, and that he knows my heart. And unfortunately, I know that while for me, like, I had God to come back to, and I had him as a comfort, that's not everyone's situation. And as much as I pray that it was, because he helped me heal, honestly, like a lot quicker than I would have expected. I mean, I'm still not fully healed from this, and I don't know that I'll ever be, but that's besides the point. But he's helped me a lot. And I just pray that, other people who might be going through a similar situation can find peace in him as well, because at the end of the day, like, that's how it should be, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my story. When I came back, like I said, mentioned in the trailer, I fully immersed myself in God's graces and all of the goodness that he has to offer, and the goodness of the church, his church, And I've been trying to learn everything that I can about him about his teachings, about our faith, you know. And praise God, I feel a lot better now. Again, I'm not sure that I'll ever heal from that, and I'm not saying that my story is even remotely ideal, because I did wait way too long before I even started trying to heal, and I don't recommend that for anybody. But again, I just think that stories are important because you never know what someone will get out of it. And I hope that, I don't know, someone will get something, anything out of my story. Or nothing. And then I just at least got close, like more healing and more closure from being able to share it. But yeah, since then, again, I've been doing everything in my power to live a holy life and to glorify God and to become a saint. And so I want to again go into the second part of the pod where I kind of just talk about my tips for living a holy life and to glorify God and be saints. So before I get into my list, I guess, if I can give you one piece of universal advice, and I say universal because truly this applies to any of God's children, and guess what? We're all God's children. All of God's people need to fall in love with Jesus. That is truly the answer. Because without him, we are nothing. And I know that telling you to fall in love with Jesus is one of those things that, I could tell you as much as I want, and it's going to sound really corny until you actually do it. Because you don't know what that feels like until you are actually feeling it. A couple of weeks ago, I had the incredible opportunity to briefly interview Father David Michael Moses. And I asked him what advice he had for Catholic young adults. And he said that we should stay close to the sacraments. He said, go to Mass, receive the Eucharist, go to confession at least once a month, and pray at least 15 minutes a day. And y'all, I truly think that is the bare minimum to living a holy life. As someone who has been trying to practice these things, I can attest, I can tell you, it works. You guys, it works. As Catholics, we believe that Jesus is truly present in the Eucharist. And we receive that, when we're in God's great graces. We receive the Eucharist at Mass on Sundays. And I know that we're all busy and it's easier said than done to go to daily Mass at least once a week, but I highly recommend it. Going to daily Mass has been a game changer for me, because if you truly believe that Jesus is present in the Eucharist, why would you limit yourself to only going to Mass on Sundays? That's crazy. And on that same note, try to go to adoration at least once a week. That has also been a game changer. Actually spending time with Jesus and in his presence and praying and just talking to him truly helps to build that relationship with him and that trust in him and that radical confidence that you need. I cannot recommend it enough. I mentioned in my testimony community, and I think that community is also very important as Catholics. It's one of the most beautiful things we have in our faith. And I highly, highly recommend joining groups, ministries in your parish, right? Have Catholic friends. Surround yourself with Catholic people, because that's going to help you grow and live a holy life, a lot. Join a ministry at your parish. Personally, I'm a little biased, or not biased, but I have a favorite. I love the young adult ministry, partially because I started it, but also because it reminds me of my college campus ministry, and that was just such an incredible time, and those people were so kind, and I just had so many good moments. So to me, that'll always be my favorite. Especially because they were there during such a transformational time in my life, whether they knew it or not. They didn't, but that's besides the point. So there's that. Also, scripture study. As Catholics, we kind of get this bad rep that we don't study the Bible, and that's not true. Nowhere does our faith teach us to not study the Bible. I think that when you do study it, when you actually start to read the Bible, you learn so much and you grow so much, and you kind of get to know what God's expectations for you are. And I think that that's beautiful and incredible, and I 10 out of 10 recommend. Spend some time with the Bible on your own, but also try to join a Bible study. That was also a game changer for me. I have now been doing a Bible study for about 2 years, and it has been so good to get to hear other women. It's a women's Bible study, but it's been so good getting to hear other women and their point of views and their interpretations of the same thing that I'm reading, because you never know, sometimes they'll say something that I would have never even thought of, and I think that's art, guys. That's actually so amazing. So 10 out of 10 recommend a Bible study. Join ministries, right? Young adult ministry. Partake in the sacraments regularly. Stay close to the sacraments, like Father David Michael Moses said, because truly they're there for a reason, y'all. And they will bring you closer to holiness, closer to God. And that's kind of the whole point, isn't it? So these are just some quick tips. If you guys actually want to hear more or hear some more in depth, let me know. I will be more than happy to actually make a full video on them and truly go into detail on the things that I do. But that kind of sums it up. I will say I also recommend reading books. Saint books are incredible, but books about the faith, because the more you know, the stronger your faith becomes and the more you're able to defend it. So do that as well. And pray. I already said pray, but pray. I can't emphasize that enough. Pray. That is your number one spiritual weapon. Please pray. But yeah, that's all for today. I hope that you guys were not disappointed with this episode. And if you were, again, we'll try again next week. But yeah, let's learn together. Let's grow together. And let's be saints together. Bye, y'all. If you're as excited for this podcast as I am, please give me a follow, leave a review or a comment or whatever it is that people leave on podcasts. And of course, please continue to pray for me as we embark on this journey together. God bless you all and stay tuned. If you are ever feeling like you're struggling with your mental health, please seek guidance, whether that be from a priest or spiritual director or a therapist. Therapy is very okay, and one day I will make an episode on that as well. But it is so okay. And God wants us to be free of our demons, and He wants you to be okay and to heal. So if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. You can actually go to catholictherapist.com to find a Catholic therapist near you that might be able to help you work through some of your traumas. So yeah, God bless you guys.